My name is Greg Larson. I'm a senior English major, Spanish minor, philosophy minor.
My name is Nellie Evans. I'm a senior here at Linfield.
Hello, I'm Licham Battalion. I studied for a year abroad in Japan.
Yeah, my name is Kyle Ashton. I'm a senior here. My major is French and I studied abroad in Angers, France for 1 year.
Hi, my name is Rachel Codd and I'm a junior and I'm an environmental policy major, and fall semester 2011 I studied abroad in Costa Rica.
My name's Kate Strawby. I am a studio art major, German minor, and I studied abroad in Vienna, Austria.
So my name is Brittany Drost, and I am a junior this year. And last semester I studied abroad at Kanto Gakuen University in Yokohama, Japan.
I'm Jennifer Durkee and I'm a sophomore at Linfield College, and I studied in Marseille, France for a semester. And my major is philosophy.
I decided to go abroad actually before I came to Linfield. I had gone to high school in California where I live, and my program there, I was taking Spanish, and I got the opportunity there to go on a 3-week program to Spain and fell in love with traveling and learning languages and things like that. So I started taking French my senior year of high school and decided French was what I wanted to study here. And so I decided when I was looking for a college that I wanted a place to go that allowed me to go abroad, and Linfield really fulfilled that. So I kind of decided before I got here.
There was a lot going on through my mind. As far as just kind of being nervous and being excited, my expectations was, to improve with my language skills and to learn more about myself. Those would probably be the main things, the main expectations that I had.
My expectations is that I was going to be a little overwhelmed in the beginning, definitely in the beginning. Even though I have been taking Japanese since high school, I understood that being completely surrounded by the language was going to be a little difficult at times. But I also had high expectations that I was going to have a great time. And I've had a lot of Japanese friends and with exchange students who had come to school, also my high school. And so I looked forward to meeting old faces and as well as making a lot of new friends, and I wasn't disappointed whatsoever.
I talked to people beforehand about their experiences abroad, but nothing really does enough to prepare you or make you feel like you know what to expect, and I think that's really important that you don't know what to expect because that's part of the experience.
I did take a lot of Japanese class in preparation. I started studying Japanese when I came to college. So I was kind of behind where the majors were supposed to be. I needed to take a 3rd year Japanese in order to go abroad for a year. So what I did is I went up to Portland and had an intensive summer course for 2 months.
Mostly I was excited. I was excited to see how my view of the United States would change after living outside the United States. And I was also excited to experience another culture kind of wholeheartedly within that context.
I took 5 courses, which is the norm for the American University Center of Provence programs, and I took a cultural patterns class, a linguistic strategies class. I took a course on Marseille and the diversity and the urban landscape, which was one of my favorite classes because every other week we would go out into the city and learn about the city's history as we were walking through it, which was really cool.
So we have a set curriculum in Senegal, and so we had Art in Senegalese Society, Traditional African Civilization, a course in Wolof, which is the local African language, a course in French, and a drumming and music class, and also a dance class. And so all the classes gave us opportunities to go out and explore the surrounding areas. And so even though we were in the classroom sometimes, we also had different excursions. Like for French class, we would walk to get ice cream and speak French the whole way, or go to markets and learn how to bargain in French and do different things like that. We had trips to go to a rural village with our history class and to art villages with our other class, so there are lots of opportunities to learn inside and outside the classroom.
3 of our classes were in English, or I should say Japanglish, because our culture, economics, and politics class, our teacher would be really good in English, but at times they would start using Japanese. So it was kind of bilingual, and sometimes a lot of us didn't know even what to do in class because the directions weren't really clear, or we just didn't know what's going on. So that was really hard.
The professors were amazing. I took an advanced French grammar class, which sounds horrible, but it was my favorite class because the professor, you could say, okay, I don't understand this, and she would say, okay, next class, that's all we're going to talk about. And so it was really, she really paced the class with what we needed help with rather than her agenda and what she wanted to teach.
Institutions and learned about EU politics and what major problems they face. And so it was a nice balance between language and politics.
My professors, they were quite nice. They knew that they were teaching foreign students, so they realized that we would not be as quick as the French students to learn the stuff that they were teaching. So they took it kind of easy on us. And also the classes over there, there's more to do in class, but when you're outside of class, you don't really have as much homework. So you spend more hours during the week in actual class, but then once you're out, you're free to do whatever you want. So I really like that. There's more freedom.
What's really neat is you do have a host family opportunity, or you stay with host families. It's not an opportunity, it's part of the program.
My host family experience, it was a real trip. It was a real wild ride at times.
And it was very interesting, very different from how I experience American families.
I had a host family, and so I did do a homestay, and I lived, actually that was probably the best thing about my entire experience.
I actually lived in a dorm with 2 other German girls and a Swedish boy, which was an interesting experience. So I didn't live with a family, but I was living in a college dorm style situation.
I absolutely adored my host mom. She was a stay-at-home mom, and so she and I spend the most time together. And she wanted to learn English too, and so we kind of did a little bit of a half Japanese, half English sort of deal. And I learned so much from her because I was able to teach her and she was able to teach me. And in some ways I learned more from her than I did from my classes. So all in all, I would say it was the highlight of my entire experience was my month when I stayed with them.
My home life in Oaxaca was pretty interesting. I stayed with a family there for the duration of the trip. But they were great. They took care of me. We went out and got food, and they tried to incorporate me into their weekend type activities, although I was busy with a lot of study and obviously reading in Spanish and practicing and going out and doing stuff in the afternoon. But they're great folks and they're interesting. If nothing else, I'll remember them for a long time.
My host mom cooked really good food. Oh, I miss her so much. And my host brother was studying to be a Japanese teacher, so he really helped me out on homework, and then he took me out to like amusement parks and places I wanted to go. It was pretty cool.
But it was a super valuable cultural experience, and I got to taste a lot of good French food and had a good experience learning about French family.
Something that helped me feel a lot more at home was my host family. They were absolutely amazing and went above and beyond to make me feel welcome and as at home as I could possibly feel like. And having our group that went from Linfield, having the other people in my group to rely on was a huge part of feeling at home because we're all from the same region. And even though we were all in a completely different situation, they were sort of like a little piece of home that we all had and we all shared, and we were just a support group for one another.
In my free time, I would go to yoga class or work at the bike shop that I volunteered at. And even if I wasn't doing my volunteer hours, I would probably just go hang out at the bike shop because I found some really great friends and we had really similar interests, so it was fun to talk and hang out with those guys. If I wasn't at those activities, I would just walk around the city because we can do that. And it was a really great experience to familiarize myself with the city.
During our semester, pretty much every weekend that we had free, we were traveling around to different places. We would look up the bus schedules and go on these crazy bus adventures, which were always adventures and oftentimes confusing, and we got lost a lot. But we went to the most beautiful places all over Costa Rica, but one of my favorite trips was on our Thanksgiving break, where we went to Panama, but getting to Panama City was amazing. It was completely different than what I expected. I would definitely recommend to anyone that they go visit there. We saw the canal, which was amazing. There was a crocodile in one of the dams at the canal, which was one of my goals for the semester, was to see a crocodile. And then we met up with the rest of our group on an island close to the border with Costa Rica, and we spent quite a few days there and had a wonderful Thanksgiving dinner at a nice restaurant. And you had to get from island to island on these little boats, and we played beach volleyball for hours with a bunch of people that were staying at the same hostel from all over the United States and all over the world, and it was an amazing experience.
The city I was in was a huge biker city. Everyone had a bike, and you were just so free if you had a bike, and there was a beautiful river that you could just bike along. Just walking around the old city, hiking. I was on the edge of the Black Forest, which is infamous or famous for the Grimm brothers and the fairy tales that come from it. So there's a lot of hiking opportunities, and so a lot of time outdoors. And I visited a lot of countries. I went to Ireland and visited some of the kids or some of the students from Linfield who were studying in Galway. I was in England, I was in Ireland, I was in Paris, I went to Italy a couple times, and I got to go over to Eastern Europe to study corruption in the European Union in Greece and Romania and Bulgaria. I was in Switzerland and Austria, and I think that's it.
Something positive that I've gotten out of the experience is a broadened appreciation for the world and the various amounts of people and different kinds of people and cultures and how they all intermingle and can get along just fine if we respect and understand one another.
You get so used to how your life is in the United States, and you make assumptions that could be vastly wrong. And it was important to go out and see what other people do and understand the merit of what they do, even if it's completely different to what you're used to.
The perspective of everyone around you. I mean, the United States is kind of a big player on the world stage, so people talk about it, and you can, I mean, it's not like I blended in Mexico, you know, people were like, hey, there's a white guy. But, you know, you end up talking and getting a bunch of perspectives on the United States, and it was healthy for me just to be outside of the context of the United States.
It was definitely a positive thing coming back from studying abroad, because now I notice I take more initiative with certain things. Like I usually find that I will get like a form turned in, and then after the fact people will ask me, oh, did you get it turned in? And I can already say that I did. So I feel like I'm much more, like I plan ahead a lot more, and I make sure that my life is organized and that I get things done on time.
I definitely grew from that experience. I mean, like, I guess personal growth, I am definitely more humble. Like, I try not to be as loud. I do respect other people's opinions a lot more than before. Instead of just cutting them when they talk, I like to listen to what they have to say the whole time. Much better than before.
Before I went to France, I was definitely pretty dependent on them. My mom is like my best friend, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, how am I gonna go abroad when I can't talk to my mom every day? Because I pretty much literally talk to her every day on the phone for about 30 minutes. And being abroad really helped me realize how much I value my family, but then also gave me like this sense of independence that I can do things on my own and I don't need my family necessarily.
Being in Costa Rica definitely inspired me further to pursue my career goals, and in my life, I want to do something that is working towards protecting the environment. And I don't really know what that's going to look like, but being in Costa Rica and having the opportunity to talk to people about environmental issues there, their concerns, their level of education on environmental issues was really eye-opening.
And I've come to find that because I studied abroad, I'm a lot more patient and understanding person. And I have a lot more interest in just humanity, human life.
します。将来日本で皆さんに会いたいだよ。皆さんはできる留学生だよ。
Die Kultur zu wissen, zu reisen, zu Leute kennenlernen und genießen die 4 Monate. So.
Completamente de la cultura. Y una cosa que me encanta allá es que la familia es algo muy cerca y sumamente importante. Como mi familia allá, todos viven muy cerca en San Ramón o unas en San José.
Elle nous a amenés chez Chino, à Chino, et là-bas c'est une ville très ancienne et très historique, et puis on a passé la journée tout près de la Loire, et c'est la grande rivière en France, et c'était très joli, c'était une journée très belle. Et
also, klar, wenn eine Person in Europa ist, will man so nachts rausgehen in so einen Club oder Disco oder tanzen gehen. Also wir haben so ein paar ausprobiert und dann sind wir auf eine gekommen, er heißt Praterdom, und wir sind immer am Donnerstagabend hingegangen, weil Mädels kann frei reinkommen und die kriegen auch 10 € so Gutschein für Getränke. Also dann kommst du frei rein, kannst du so viele Getränke wie du willst kaufen und dann bis 5 Uhr morgens so tanzen. Und ja, also wir sind vielleicht 10-mal dahin gegangen und immer mussten wir gar nichts bezahlen.
Que todos tengan un viaje tan exitoso que yo y aprendí muchísimo. Y todos deben ir a Oaxaca.
A person's going to be nervous, obviously, but the Austro-American Institute that you go to, they're really helpful. They're always a great resource, so don't be worried because you're always going to have somebody who can help you while you're there. And usually most host families work out really well, so you'll find that your host family.
I would say try and minimize the frustration by taking in as much as you can, but being open-minded and ask people tons of questions. They know you're there studying, you're probably going to stand out. And so I asked as many questions as I could to anybody that would listen. And that was great because I learned a whole bunch from people there. And walk around. It sounds weird, but just get to know the place you're in. It's easy to get trapped on this kind of path from school to home, school to home, school to home, go get food, school to home. But make sure you take advantage of being there.
Future students who go abroad should prepare themselves. I got really homesick. I wasn't prepared emotionally for the experience. I hadn't expected that I would get homesick, but it can happen, and lots of things can happen. It's important to have a mental plan of how am I going to find resources and how am I going to call home and how am I going to deal with this if I get homesick.
Take advantage of everything that you can do. Definitely look into things that are free. At the beginning of my stay, there was a film festival which didn't cost anything, so you could just go there, have a beer or a soda if you don't drink alcohol, which I didn't, and just watch the movies for free. And there's tons of free events that go on that you should definitely take advantage of and research.
Practice the language before you go. If you're in a city that's bikeable, get a bike because you immediately feel like a local and you can get around whenever. And if your friends suddenly say like, hey, we're going to go out at like midnight and there's no more trams running and you don't have a bike, you have to stay home. So get a bike and have goals before you go. If you establish goals, you can gauge like how successful your experience was on the whole. And don't be afraid to like branch out from the other exchange students, because if your goal is to experience German culture and make German friends, having a bunch of exchange student friends isn't really going to help that. So just knowing what your purpose is, I would definitely recommend figuring that out before you travel.
For future students, you are going to have a blast. I mean, if you have preconceived notions that when you go to Japan that you're just going to be stuck in a bubble and you don't want to break out of it, I urge you to break out of it, because when is the next time you're going to go to Japan for several months and your plane ticket is paid for nonetheless?
I'd recommend going to Costa Rica for anybody and everybody that's interested in Spanish and learning about the culture and just having the time of your life. And if Costa Rica isn't the study abroad destination for you, I'd recommend going somewhere, because study abroad was the best decision I've ever made, I think.